18 political parties in Zimbabwe are expected to lead a demonstration tomorrow to force President Robert Mugabe to implement electoral reforms ahead of the 2018 vote. The march is expected to draw thousands of supporters. Tsvangirai of the Movement for Democratic Change and former Vice President Joice Mujuru are among the leaders expected to lead the march. Yesterday, police fired tear gas at more than 200 youth who took to the streets of Harare in protest against Mugabe's rule. Joining us on the line for the latest in Harare is our correspondent Tsvangirai. Tsvangirai, thank you so much for joining us. Now, what is the latest regarding tomorrow's planned march? Is it still expected to go ahead?
Well, there's still a lot of uncertainty whether this march will go ahead. The Home Affairs Minister a short while ago issued a press statement in which he said that the police will not brook any kind of violence and that they will clamp down on illegal protesters. And so as we speak, the Movement for Democratic Change had approached the High Court to seek clearance for this march to go ahead. We understand now that that application will be heard at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So it's unclear whether they will go ahead, even if the High Court says that they won't be allowed to. But in the past, what we've seen is that when the police refuses to give clearance, the High Court always does give clearance to these protests.
Now, there's been a lot of protests in recent months in Zimbabwe. Paint a picture of what the mood is like on the ground with people on the ground.
Well, there's a lot of tension, especially over the last month or so. As you mentioned, there's been a lot of unrest, particularly on Wednesday, where we saw a lot of ordinary people, a lot of bystanders caught in the crossfire between protesters and police. In one instance, police threw tear gas into a private combi as it was trying to flee from the CBD, and these protests are happening within the CBD. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and there's an expectation that possibly businesses will tell their workers to stay away, because it is likely that even if the High Court does give this march clearance, that there are likely to be clashes with police.
Now, what sort of numbers is expected for tomorrow's march, and what kind of impact can we expect from this march? Well,
about 200 people marched on Wednesday, which was a march by the opposition supporters youth wing. But tomorrow we're expecting, as you said, about 18 political parties represented. The party leaders are usually able to mobilize large numbers of people, and so it could run into the thousands. We saw the Movement for Democratic Change march a few months earlier, which attracted about 10,000, and that was just one political party. So really, it's likely that there will be thousands and thousands of people that will take to the street. The impact is unclear because really at the moment, ZANU-PF says that there is no need for electoral reforms. This march was about trying to get reforms of the Electoral Commission as well as on the voters' roll. But really, it's not clear how ZANU-PF will respond. But at the moment, they say that the claims and the calls for electoral reforms are not justified.
Now, we understand that the opposition parties and civic organizations have requested an urgent meeting with President Mugabe and to discuss the deepening economic crisis in the country. Has he responded in any way to that request?
Absolutely not. President Mugabe has not responded. He hasn't even made any public comment about the latest unrest on Wednesday that happened. But the Minister of Home Affairs, which held the press conference a few hours ago, has said that some of these attempts to try to get international mediation into the Zimbabwe challenges will not work. And so really at first instance, it does appear as if ZANU-PF doesn't believe that there's a need to sit down with opposition parties and talk to try to find a solution to some of the challenges that the protesters are marching about.
Tsvangirai, thank you so much for joining us. We have to leave it there for now. That was our correspondent in Zimbabwe, Tsvangirai, with an update on recent protests in that country. Now, in other